there's some more CS news to talk about, because we actually did have the announcement about the new major, and there's more to it than meets the eye. We've been told it's going to be in Austin. It's going to be Blast. And let's start with the announcement, actually, and then we'll get into some of the things, because they're actually doing something different. And this is one of the things that they did say was essentially going to happen. Once we got to this kind of stage that we're at now, where everyone's kind of vying for events and everything's going to feed into Valve's ranking, that's going to be the only ranking that matters for getting invited to majors. We talked about that last time on stream. Everyone's like crying about closed qualifiers and stuff. Once we got to this stage, I said, people are going to like innovate, because there has to be a reason to attend Tournament X over Tournament Y. And how do you incentivize that? Well, maybe you make it a little bit different, you know? Maybe you give financial incentives for going. Maybe you create a cohesive circuit. Maybe some tournaments influence Valve ranking more than others. And that competition was what was going to be super interesting. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, we don't just have ESL and DreamHack kind of doing 80% of the calendar. We got PGL doing a bunch of tournaments. We got Blast doing a bunch of tournaments. We got StarLadder coming back to commit to doing all these big tournaments. And there's going to be others. And so the good thing about all of this is now it's going to empower teams to sort of choose where they go. You're probably going to have overlapping competitions. It's going to create a little bit of, not exclusivity, but you might not see teams play each other every week like we're used to now. Might be a few tournaments before two teams are kind of at the same tournament, and it'll make the matchups a little bit more exciting. And I think this is all super positive stuff. I think this is really good for the scene and is going to push us in the right direction. Now, I've also said there is a risk that we get oversaturated and we get bored of having all of these tournaments, right? Which is like a byproduct. But I'd rather risk the oversaturation of something different than have the boredom of regular things spaced out, but the same games, the same teams over and over again, because it kind of makes rivalries essentially meaningless. Blast to host the 2025 Summer Major in Austin, and obviously it's the first major in NA since Boston. Now, I thought the crowd in Dallas were wankers, frankly, but with cheating for G2 and the sort of constant USA chants just because Stewie was playing and stuff, I thought they were. I didn't think it was as cool as the Boston fucking crowd, honestly. But whatever, it's fine. Are they as insufferable as the Australians? No. So they've got that going for them. So, yeah, Austin, obviously a great city in the great state of Texas. I really like this. If you've ever been to Austin, obviously been many times. If you've ever been, it's a great fucking city. I mean, straight up, if you are one of the people who are going to be attending this major, you're in for a great time. Austin's such a cool place to like go out, party, very friendly, you know, very safe. I mean, obviously I haven't been in a few years, but when I used to go regularly, I used to have some friends that lived down there, and it was just really cool. A great place to go. And really held up, you know, like in terms of, you know, considering I lived in Vegas, you know, it's like I've lived in Atlanta. I've lived in some fucking places that like to party. Austin was right up there, frankly. So I think that's really cool. It's a great place. And look, honestly, Blast getting another major, it's not ESL, is it? So I'll they've got that going for them. I'll say as well, I was critical of the Paris major because it was lackluster. It just didn't quite have the oomph. I mean, obviously biased because not only did I work PGL's major, but I'm going to be working with PGL in the future. But remember, I tore Stockholm to pieces, didn't I? And said these are all the ways that PGL messed up at that major. You know, I try and keep it real where I can. But I thought Copenhagen was just like fucking super sick. And when you compared it to Paris, I just thought it was like day and night. I think Copenhagen's right up there. It's not a top 3 or top 4 major, but it might be a top 6 major. in my opinion. I thought the games were good, the crowd were good, performance was good. It had insane amounts of drama, insane things, PCs crashing, stage invasions. It was like just fucking. It's just a wild story in and of itself. So yeah. Anyway, this is going to be the first major of 2025. Blast has announced that it will host the first Counter-Strike major of 2025 in the United States, as reported by HLTV. The event will mark the return of Counter-Strike's biggest competition to North America after a 7-year absence. The tournament will take place in June in Austin, Texas, at the Moody Center, a 15,000-plus seat multi-purpose arena located on the campus of the University of Texas at Austin. Now, by the way, I don't know if you've seen the venue. Let me get you a picture of it. It is a classic sports venue. They do it for concerts as well. So here we go. This is a fucking rad picture, actually. This is what it looks like. You know, big fucking Jumbotron, fucking massive screens. That's it for a concert there. It's like super fucking cool. And because it's actually on a campus, it's fucking, you know, I mean, put it this way. I imagine there'll be concessions for the students. I imagine it's going to fill up very quickly. So and 15,000, like I put it this way. I would probably say, I've worked a lot of events, and I think Copenhagen might have been the biggest crowd I've ever been in front of. And the atmosphere in there was like, you know, it, as I said when I got back, it really moved me how fucking positive it was. The crowd was super good. There really is nothing like turning around to a crowd of like 12,000 people and you're talking to all of them at once and they're fucking reacting to what you fucking say. So, I mean, out of all the events I've worked, that crowd was huge. And it was so fucking cool. Like, it was a really good environment. And I think, you know, if they can get 15,000 people, and there's no reason to think that they can't, then the atmosphere will be fucking great. Obviously, depending on who qualifies and who's there and who's invited and everything else, there is going to be that potential. I think, you know, it just makes me sad that people can't sort of behave at these things and they have to like screen cheat and, you know, cheat for their teams, and players are like playing off the crowd. I just think it's also, I just wish that wasn't in the game, but it's a reality of it, so we got to deal with it. So I really like the venue. We're incredibly excited to bring the Blast.tv. They are doing that again, by the way. I wish you wouldn't do this. Blast.tv major, you know, I didn't like it for Paris. I don't like it for this. Just call yourself Blast. Like, that's your name. I get it. You're marketing your streaming platform, your TV, your content, but don't tack that on to the fucking major. That feels like some grotesque corporate sports thing that I don't want in my esports. But then again, I didn't want the Saudi Arabian state funding everything, so maybe beggars can't be choosers. So anyway, we're incredibly excited to bring the Blast.tv major to Austin, Texas, said Blast CEO Robbie Dueck. The city's dynamic atmosphere, the cutting-edge Moody Center, and track record of hosting world-leading events provide the perfect setting for what promises to be an unforgettable event. We look forward to showcasing the best of esports to a global audience and making a positive impact on the local community. And so, you know, I'm pretty pumped about this. It's actually, right, how do I frame this without potentially getting myself in trouble? I actually think Blast have got a fucking... The timing is perfect for a North American major. You know, to be having... Like, summers in Austin are fucking great. The vibes will be immaculate. The crowd will be loving it. It's going to be a great event. But also, I have no idea about what's kind of going on with the Perfect World Major, and understand it's historic that we're having a major in Shanghai. But, I mean... information seems to be kind of like light on the ground about what's going on and who's running what, and I don't, and so that major could be weird. I don't know. I'm just saying. I think that major could be a weird one. I'm just guessing. It's just an opinion going in. I have no idea what's going on around it. I mean, like I say, I would have thought we would all know by now, but we sort of don't. And so anyway, then to be able to like have that as the contrast, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's going to be amazing. I don't know. But I just haven't heard enough about it, considering it's like, what, it's in November? It's like fucking June, guys. It'll creep up on you. So, but I think this will be good, and I think Blast as well will have learned a lot from Paris, and I fully expect this to be a better event, and hopefully an event with better teams. Valve, fix the ranking. I don't need Mongols being invited to the fucking round of 16 directly because you can't calibrate an algorithm. Please. Right? So anyway, there's all of that. But what Blast are also doing a bunch of different things with this. And so I wanted to go through. They announced their circuit as well. And there's like loads of like interesting stuff going on. Right, so this was their announcement. The thing that upset me was I wanted to learn more about something, and you get to the bottom. I'm going to go through all of these. And you go, read more about prize money, team earnings, and the frequent flyer program here. And here just isn't a link. So they've done the old workplace classic, the old office mistake. So I don't know if that copy exists, if I can learn more. But I would like to learn more if it's possible. So anyway, Blast Premier 2025, a world of innovation and compelling storylines. 2025 is set to be a huge change for Counter-Strike, and Blast will be changing alongside it. Ever since Valve posted their A Level Playing Field statement, Blast has been working behind the scenes to craft one of the most innovative tournament circuits in CS history, ensuring compelling and exciting storylines that will captivate fans like never before. And this was a good opportunity for a shake-up. One of the things that basically happened, and we sort of put up with it in Counter-Strike, was when we went into the Partnered Era League, right? What we ended up doing was we sort of just accepted, like, it was all going to be bland, and it was all going to be the same, because basically what Blast was sort of the alternative to ESL, but it's the same. It wasn't really an alternative at all. It's kind of like we ended up with AEW and WWE, except all the wrestlers were the same, right? So, you know, you turn on the WWE because you want to watch Big Show, but Big Show's in AEW as well. So what the fuck are we all doing, you know? So that's kind of what we got in Counter-Strike, and the tournaments were the same. There were a few, like, nominal differences to formats. Something like EPS is obviously, you know, the ESL Pro Series, or ESL Pro League, EPL I should say. There was some interesting little format anomalies, but ultimately what you got was the same. And this is now a good opportunity for everybody. PGL, Blast, even ESL should revise. I can't wait to see what StarLadder are going to do different, and anyone else who comes back. This is a good opportunity to craft an actual tournament that has its own feel, its own vibes, you might say, its own format, new rules, trying out new things, right? Keep in mind, we're still really calibrating MR12 and everything. I want to see some pretty wild fucking experimentation. I wouldn't even be above fucking with actual in-game shit. I mean, like, for real. I want to see interesting events on the calendar that we look forward to. And so Blast have definitely got the right idea in terms of what they're doing here. And you can see the Blast VP of Ecosystems, Valve, Riot Games, Andrew Haworth, put it best. 2025 is shaping up to be Blast's most exciting year to date. And you can see here, this was the graphic. And they have something called the Blast Bounty. Now, what they're doing here is they're going for everything's branded with like a wacky word, because we saw this with the Dota as well. They've come in and they're doing like 6 to 8 Dota tournaments, and I think it's called Blast Slam or something. So we got the Blast Bounty, the Blast Open, and Blast Rivals. And so they explain here, for the past few years, Blast's tournament calendar has been made up of 7 tournaments, 2 groups, 2 showdowns, 2 finals, and a world final that is the culmination of the Counter-Strike year. Now, one of the criticisms we've all leveled at Blast, we all remember Kasadi called them banana cups, right? One of the criticisms we've leveled at Blast is, first of all, if you're external to Blast, you can't really get into their tournaments. Yeah, you might have gone to a couple. Yeah, you might get invited. You know, they had to do that fucking humiliating climb down of, we will not have Russian teams at our tournaments until this situation in Ukraine is over. And then VP won the major, and they went, within moments of VP celebrating and lifting the trophy, Blast went, yeah, we are going to allow them to participate as is tradition. So, but they'll be called outsiders, though. Take that, Putin. And so anyway, they did do that, and the whole circuit is just shit. It was shit. The Blast circuit is shit. Their World Finals never felt like a World Final compared to their other events. It just felt like another Blast event. And these Blast events, by the way, like, What does it say about your circuit when pro players say behind the scenes, it's only a blast, we're going to use this to try out some new tactics? And they do say that. So, not great, right? And yes, Snappy said multiple times, look, we want to get into Blast. They won't have us in. We're definitely one of the best teams, but paying $3 million just to compete with people we compete against over at this other place just seems a bit crazy. Like, just all they had to do was recalibrate the numbers as well. It was like they had these ranking points. It was just impossible for you to get enough almost to get in. So anyway, I'm glad they're I never liked the Blast circuit as it was. I never liked it. I was very vocal about that. It's one of the reasons, by the way, you're never going to see me at Blast events. I'd be astounded if I ever got the call up to work one of these events, even though I am back. I am available for work. I'm doing fucking, balloon animals at kids' parties on the weekend, and maybe I can come back and host an event or two to make the money. So, but I doubt Blast will ever hire me because I think they're really pissed off about a lot of the criticism that I've aimed at them down the years. Because, I don't know, I think if you've worked 20 years in an industry, you have earned the right to speak your mind a little bit, but apparently not. Anyway, I'm glad. It needed freshening up. Blast was bad. It was a worse version of the Intel Grand Slam, essentially. That's all it was. And I, for one, will not be lamenting its demise. As of 2024, we will now host 6 events in the year, but those 6 events will bring with them far more opportunities for teams in the Blast Premier Circuit than ever before, as well as much more Counter-Strike action for those of you watching at home. The Blast Premier Tournament Circuit will now be made up of 3 events, each with its own format and unique features. These events are the Blast Bounty, the Blast Open, and Blast Rivals. And Blast Bounty, they say, is a truly innovative, game show-like structure in which 32 teams will compete to raise the bounty on their heads in order to take home a larger percentage of the prize pool. Now, I'll go into these things in more detail, but I know what you were going to think. You were going to go, oh, Richard, you're a fucking purist. You're going to hate this. Wrong. I fucking love this shit. Let's just lean into the fact that esports, as much as it's trying to be a sport, it's also very much its own thing. It's an entertainment product first, in my fucking opinion. And I want to have tournaments that inherently generate content and entertaining moments. And what we have, unfortunately, now is an almost like lethargy when we go into these events, because essentially we watch group stages that are meaningless mismatches unless someone shits the bed or someone overperforms. We limp through those endless streams of kind of just regurgitating the same formula: map, break, desk, no tools on the desk, no pre-recorded segments, just talk, break, map, break, desk, and we just do this for 12 hours a day, and it's just like, ugh. And you're so reliant on the games to generate the moments, and if the games are shit, God help you. Because the fucking, what can you can't even talk about. You need the material. This is where EPL this season, they got it. They finally did what they always said they were going to do, and they gave the creatives, and they gave the commentators, and the analysts, and the hosts, and even in some instances, the players, creative input. And what did we get this season? Probably the best EPL season there's ever been. A lot of work, because they did more in a shorter time frame. It didn't linger as long, but the skits were good, the segments were good, the caster pairings were eclectic, we had Device commentating on games. All of these things added great moments, and that's what we want at the end of the day. It is entertainment. You can take all the stats and all the numbers and all the skills and all the players and all the history, and that's fine. Nothing should ever detract from that, but what we've always needed is more fucking sizzle for the steak. And esports has lacked sizzle. And so having the balls to do something different is great, and it should be championed and it should be welcomed. And I hope everybody looks at what Blast are doing here with the bounty stuff and they go, oh yeah, shit, we can get fucking crazy. We can actually get wild and mix it up. I want, when I'm back on the circuit, put it this way. When you're a host or when you're broadcast talent, it's kind of nice to have to like sit down and read the rule book. I know this is going to sound weird to a lot of people, but knowing you're going to go in and get something different and you have to be on the ball about it, you have to know about this. And I'm not talking about the fucking blue ball system and the boo calls fucking nightmare where it's just like I'm staring at some mathematical formula and even when I get to the end of it, I still don't know if Team A or Team B are going to qualify when they play each other. It's like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, oh, so you can do this and you can do that. And then you can implement that into your broadcast. You can put that on the desk and generate some storylines. This will be great for content because the premise of the bounty, and we'll get into more detail in a moment, but the premise of the bounty system is that essentially you can call out teams, and if you beat them, your bounty goes up, and then people might want to play you and call you out. The content you can generate around that is fucking rad. And also, in terms of what you talk about on an analysis desk, like, literally, I can't wait to hear analysts basically be asked, you know, well, who would you call out and why? Which matchups? And then you go, listen, this stylistic, you get your big screen and you go, look, this stylistic matchup really works. They've beaten them 5 times out of 5. They've got all this money on their head. If I'm that team, I call them out immediately and then I just win and I get all that money and then that's going to be fucking great. And just great to listen to. And that's the other thing. Like, you know, a lot of fans, they don't value the desk segments in between. They don't stick around and listen to them. Even more so when it is hard analysis. This is what you want. You want your desk segment to be like a fucking inside the NBA style show that pieces together and cohesively holds the tournament. It's just a connective tissue of building narrative and structure so people at home understand stakes. That's what we're doing on a desk. And so this leans into that so heavily. I mean, again, I know I can never work for Blast. I know they never hire me, but I would love a crack at doing one of these bounty events. I would love it. Of course, we'll have to see if where it's being hosted. Yeah, the world continues to shrink for Richard Lewis, I noticed. Anyway, Blast Open are going to be the big arena events with an epic large scale, providing a truly global route for teams from all CS regions, an opportunity to shine against the world's best teams. This is more essentially your traditional conceptualization around esports. That's what you get. So, I mean, not really a lot has changed there. And calling it open, good news. It actually is open. Oh, yeah, great. We're back. Blast Rivals, a battle of the elite where the best of the best will come toe-to-toe to see who reigns supreme. And this is ultimately the people that have like generated whatever it is going to be in terms of, you know, I'm guessing Valve ranking or whatever it is, and they're going to come together and this is going to be the elite level shit. This is going to be, you know, like FA Cup fucking quarterfinals and onwards kind of style stuff. So that's going to be great too. They're going to be high-level tournaments. You're probably going to see the same teams playing each other again, but just in terms of it being smaller, more elite-focused, more prestigious, it's a step in the right direction. Not every tournament has to be a wieldly 32 team, right? We all know who's going to lose, and only the final 8 matters anyway. So what do we do all of that shit for? To give people a chance? No. What if the chances were already earned in prior tournaments? Right? I like invite by ranking system. I've always been an advocate for that. So, so far, loving it. Love the changes. You can see as well where they're going to be holding them. This is great news. Lisbon is one of my favorite cities in the world. Sorry, Porto people. Lisbon clears. I fucking love Lisbon. I don't know. If I start talking about it too much, I might just fuck off to Lisbon. Like now, I might just like turn off the stream and just go to Birmingham Airport and just go. I fucking love Lisbon. It is so cool. There's nothing like eating a giant plate of mackerel on a beach, smashed out your mind on wine, just enjoying the sun. People so friendly, beautiful. And again, what I'm loving about what's happening with the new developments in Counter-Strike, look at all the cool places we're going to. We're finally going. It's not just, well, we're back here. It's Copenhagen again. You know, it's like, do you remember that chart where they looked at all the major events in CS and like this overwhelming amount were in the US, and then the next was like Denmark, and then like the next was Germany. It's like I want to fucking like. if this is a global fucking thing, I want to go around the fucking globe. You know, and I'm talking like we're at a stage now, and I think you'll see this happen. I think you're going to see, we already had like Dota events in like fucking Thailand and all over I think you're going to see some fucking wicked CS events. I think you're going to see places like, I'm not even joking. Why not? Why not have a big event in Kazakhstan? Borat did Kazakhstan so fucking dirty, it's fucking wild. Why not have an event in Kazakhstan? Why not have an event in fucking Tokyo? Why not have a CS event in Thailand? You know, we're finally going to be going around all of these cool places. And Lisbon, people don't realize this. While it might lack a little bit in terms of like tech infrastructure, although that has changed a lot in the last like 10, 15 years, Lisbon always had a really strong esports scene, low key. They used to run all sorts of LANs out in Portugal. Portugal used to have this regular thing. What was it called? Was it XL LAN, I want to say, in Portugal? I went to one time. I can't even remember. But anyway, they had a fucking, like, really good, vibrant fucking scene, and it was, like, your classic old XL party, yeah. It was your classic fucking old-school LAN where you would go to an event, and you would play, and then as soon as you went out, it was like, yeah, let's all go to a nightclub, and that was it. We'd all just be partying for the rest of the times. Those events were fucking great, and they always sold out, and they were always fucking full, and again, just great times. And there are a lot of esports fans in Portugal. People don't know this. It's also just a very, I think, sophisticated country in general. I think Portugal's like totally slept on as a place. So I'm glad we're going back to Lisbon. Lisbon should be like a staple on the calendar for me. I think it's a great city. So loving that. And we don't know where the other places are going to be. Bahrain might be rearing its head at some point, and yeah, Croiseru. There's a quote here: from 2025 onwards, Blast Premier fans will have more broadcast hours, more events, and more teams to sink their teeth into than ever before. We're ripping up the script at Blast from next year onwards by introducing a fresh and exciting format that will keep fans and players on the edge of their seats at all times. Valve ranking-based invites and regional qualifiers alongside dynamic prize pools and incredible arena locations will mean the world's best teams will be competing on a global platform. As part of these changes, we have created stronger financial incentives for teams and a framework that will mean the world's best and informed teams will be rewarded and encouraged to compete in Blast Premier events. We have an ambition to support a sustainable ecosystem, which means Blast will be investing $6 million into competing Counter-Strike teams and their long-term future as part of our payment framework. Well then, now then. Right? So let's talk about this. One of the other things I said was going to happen is you would have to create financial incentives, right? So we've got a new calendar. ESL, Blast, PGL, StarLadder, they're all putting events. They're all overlapping, right? The calendar's going to be crazy. It's going to be like 2014, 2015. It's going to be mental, guys, right? Like for real. Why do I go to that one and not that one? Because we're not partners anymore, right? It's not partnered leagues. I have no contractual obligation to attend anymore. So why do I attend? That one has better prize money. They also pay us a stipend to go. And so I knew this was coming. The bottom line is Blast, PGL, StarLadder, everyone who is in ESL, they're going to have to create value, and that value is going to equate to real money for the teams. Now, Blast have been the first to explicitly say this, and $6 million kind of just distributed. This is not prize money. This is about attendance. This is about attending regular events. This is a great initiative, and it really benefits the teams. And this is why, by the way, when you see all of those people going, oh, there's no money in CS, what are we going to do? This is why we have to take the Saudi money. This is why we have to get in bed and take a stipend for the Esports World Cup. Well, now you're full of shit, right? Because you could have not done that, and you could have participated in this. You probably could have gone exclusive with Blast and say, we'll only come and do your tournaments. The only place you would see, for instance, Team Liquid is at a Blast event, and you could have got a big chunk of that million, right? You're only getting six figures over there. Low six figures is what they're all saying for the EWC stipend. So it was so essential, and now this is going to be the new normal. I mean, literally, you have to think about where we're at now. We went from a space where you pay to play It was always you paid your entry fee, you took your PC to the tournament, and by the time you won the event, the prize money didn't even cover the travel, the hotel, or the entry fee. And so you just pissed it up against the wall. That is the birth of esports. I mean, we can go further back if you want. If you want to go to arcade esports, high score esports, that era where people used to take tubs of quarters and it would just be winner stays on, coins. People used to play each other, try and beat people's scores, all of that stuff. Obviously, no money in that, just prestige. But, in the era I'm familiar with, we've gone from fucking pay to play, right, just for the love of the game, the literal just love of the game, and the prestige of just people knowing, holy shit, that's Elite Sniper Wolf 69. He's the best. Just being, I am fucking Elite Sniper Wolf 69. Obviously, my real name is fucking Bob, and I work in a fucking car phone warehouse in fucking Dagenham. But online, I'm Elite Sniper Wolf 69. What are you going to fucking do about it? And so anyway, we went from that into this. We're trying to professionalize, and people want a salary to play these games. So we have to generate that. We do that through sponsor money, and through the sponsor money and the merchandise sales, we can essentially afford to give you guys small salaries. Then people wanted full-time, proper salaries and benefits and all the other stuff. And so we had to scale up the funding. We had to get the TV deals, the broadcasting deals, all of that stuff. And then we ended up now where we're at with venture capital, just millions, tens of millions pouring in because it's a fully fledged sport. You go into arenas, you're doing all of this stuff, so everybody wants the cash. And now we've entered what is end stage esports, where we have to pay the teams to come and play at our events. Otherwise, no, we'll just go to this one over there, actually. They're willing to pay. That's where we're at now. Stipends. You are being paid to run an esports org on top of all the money that you make. It's kind of crazy. So anyway, I knew this was going to happen. And listen, this could be disastrous precedent. I said precedent. Biden fans. This could be a disastrous precedent. Or it could be the thing that sort of steadies the ship. Because if we can create tournament circuits that provide sustainable revenue for attendance and participation, we do create the question, why do I go to them all? We do create the question, if I can take this money, and this money isn't ethically compromised, do I need to take that other money? Now, look, it's esports. Everyone's a corrupt, fucking greedy loser. So obviously they'll just take all the money. But someone somewhere might just make the decision to be like, no, actually, I'm dipping on the esports World Cup. Fuck you all. So we'll see. Anyway, they did do a video.
2025 sees Blast Premier launch a brand new format where each event is a standalone tournament that crowns a winner. Blast will run 6 tournaments in 2025, split into 2 seasons of 3 tournaments. The 3 tournaments in each season will have unique formats and storylines to bring fans the best Counter-Strike across the year.
They talk about as well the major a little bit, talk about how Paris was a success. They obviously, it's press announcements and the numbers are just ridiculous. Obviously, it's like, look, what was that, like 58 million hours watched, 50,000 fans attended across 4 days, and peak viewership of 1.5 million, and we're not done. Blah, you know how it goes, like it's esports. Right, so here we go. Blast Bounty. It's a do or die tournament. A do or die format with the teams playing the 2 opening rounds in an online setting in single elimination best of 3s. The 8 quarterfinalists play the second week in a LAN setting from the Blast Studios in Copenhagen. These teams will play single elimination best of 3 quarterfinals and semifinals before a best of 5 grand final will crown the Blast Bounty champion. And by the way, the rise of the best of 5. Best of 5s are back on the menu because MR12 was definitely the right fucking thing to do, because end stage CSGO MR15 was excruciating and best of 5s weren't fucking viable. So here's the fun part. The teams participating in Blast Bounty come into the event with a bounty on their heads decided by seeding. Upon winning a match, the winning team claims 50% of the available bounty as a guaranteed payout at the end of the event, while the remaining 50% will carry forward to raise the stakes in the following match. And there's a twist too. In the opening round, the lowest seeded teams will get the chance to pick which of the highest seeded teams they would like to play. The seeding is then reset in the following rounds, with the lowest seeded teams once again being given the opportunity to select their opponent.
The Bounty is an innovative new format featuring 32 teams. The Bounty is made up of 30 teams from the Valve Global Rankings and 2 wildcard teams selected by Blast. Teams will play a BO3 single elimination, with the first 2 rounds played online in week 1 from European servers. The 8 quarterfinalists will play the second week in a LAN tournament from the Blast Studios in Copenhagen. These teams will play single elimination BO3 quarterfinals and semifinals before a BO5 final to crown the Bounty champion. Teams will come into the tournament with a bounty on their head based on their seeding. When a team wins a match, they secure 50% of the bounty won as a guaranteed payout. The other 50% of the bounty carries over to the next match and gets added to the winning team's total bounty. In the opening round, lower ranked teams will get the chance to go bounty hunting and select who they'd like to play from the highest ranking teams. After each round, seeds are reset based on the previous round's results, and again, the lower ranked teams get the chance to select their opposition from the higher ranked teams.
And there it is. So, as I said, I really like this idea. And why? Because first of all, it creates narrative. Well, first of all, it's different. And we need that. Second of all, it creates narrative. It lends itself to content. It lends itself to players with personalities really being able to lean into this. You know, you can imagine a JL or an Apex or, you know, whoever it might be, really leaning into this and sort of, you know, calling out who you know, which teams and why and which players. And we might genuinely see, you know, some fucking this is highly unlikely, but you could see maybe some genuine like online grievances get resolved. Like, for example, there was that drama, wasn't there, with Elige and the manager of Aurora this week, right? And what happened there was, you know, Aurora did a tweet when they took him out off Complexity in ESL Challenger, and they were like saying, you know, disparaging things about the team, and then Elige said, yeah, your manager was fucking screaming at us the entire event, and then we beat you, and it's pretty fucking embarrassing, you know? And so imagine teams that don't like each other, you know, being able to say, yeah, fuck it, let's get on a server, you know, let's actually hash it out. I'm going to fucking shit on you, you know, and having that kind of, you know, energy could be really good. And like I say, yeah, do it UFC style. Do it WWE style. Cut fucking promos before the fucking game. I'm about that. Like, believe me, I'm about that. I never took this shit that fucking serious where I want stuffy. I was against suits and ties from day fucking one. So there are players that are going to shine in that environment with that format. There's going to be some great content comes out of it. And also, interestingly enough, it's going to create dynamic matchups because we're going to see teams maybe that wouldn't ordinarily get a chance to play some of the big boys swing for the fences and be like, you know, by the way, a team like Mongols, this is fucking great for a team like them. I hope somehow they get to participate, because think about that. Mongols might never get to play the ranked #1 team in the world just because of the reality of how normal tournaments operate. But if Mongols come to an event like this and they go, we want to play the #1 team in the world with the biggest bounty on their head, and they're able to win, helps them build their legacy. They get a ton of scratch out of it, you know, great money for them. And so things like that are going to be great to see and great to unfold. And yeah, a great point, Blair, as you know, I would expect regular in the stream. They say, I like how South Korea figured this out during Brood War. Yes, I mean, you more equipped to talk about it than me, Monty, Thorin, but you know, in fucking Brood War, like if you go and you know, to a lesser extent, obviously, StarCraft 2 as well, but back in Brood War, the fucking promos and the entertainment aspect of it were fucking legendary. All the fucking build-up to the big games, all the content around it, all the fucking interview stuff. It's kind of weird because the thing about South Koreans being boring in interviews, that isn't true if you go back to the golden era of Brood War. It sort of wasn't like that at all. It's just something that translated when the West and South Korea started meeting each other in international tournaments. That was more of something that came out of that, because they would be very reserved. They would be speaking through a translator, which sucks. And so you would always get the same thing. I mean, I lost count of how many interviews I've seen where basically the interview is the translator says something really long and complicated in Korean. They give a really long and complicated answer, and the answer somehow is always, I just wanted to make a good game for the fans and I respect my opponent every single time. So, but old school Brood War, the content around it was fucking legendary. And anything that brings CS closer to that is a fucking good thing indeed. And look, I'm sure there's going to be some fans on like Reddit and HLTV for sure who are like fucking insane purists, and they're going to think it's a bit silly and it sort of diminishes what people are trying to do. Guys, this is a scene where we are watching young adults try and beat each other in video games. We're already pretty silly, and if you start believing in the bullshit and taking this too seriously, like, you're not gonna have a good time. Like, the bottom line is, this is meant to be a series of moments and entertainment about a shared common passion, and it's okay for things to get silly. It's fine. So I'm 100% on board with that format, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it actually plays out in theory. Now, for the Open, you can see here, this is the interesting framing. This is a bit of a 180 from Blast's kind of ethos, and that is, we're giving underdogs a chance to face the world's best teams in leading arenas around the world. And so they're literally putting it front and center that we want this to be the equalizer. We want underdogs to have a chance to play better teams. And so Blast Bounty won't be the only chance for underdogs to shine in the Blast circuit. Blast Open will also provide teams with a chance to build their legacy as 4 underdog teams come up against the 12 highest ranked teams in the world in some of the greatest arenas around the globe. Once again, the Valve Global Ranking will be used to decide the top 12 teams, and the 4 teams will be decided by regional qualifiers. Now, again, I love this format. I'm going to tell you a story, and it involves the FGC. So, get the clothes pegs, cover your nose, because they fucking stink. But I got into a drama. He's expressing opinions again on his own personal Twitter account. One of the things that I said would help the FGC tournaments do better, get more viewership, be more sustainable, is you've got to have your invite tournaments. And the problem is, all the fucking losers that have nothing in their lives but fighting games, they're like, no, that's elitist, and we're all fucking socialists and tankies for some reason. And we can't ever do that, because if I don't get a chance to lose 0-3 to Sonic Fox or some other great player, right, then I've been denied something. And so what this leads to, and they've never understood this, is, do sponsors want to sponsor an event that is 14 hours, let's say, per day of broadcast time, where, in fact, let's do it a better way. Let's say overall the broadcast is 60 hours of content, and let's say conservatively 30 hours of it don't matter. It's not going to generate any viewership. It's not going to have any good players on. It's only going to get interesting right at the tail end of the tournament. Nobody wants to put their fucking logo on that. Nobody wants to be associated with that. It is a waste of money, and so they don't support it, and so you don't get the input. Now, if I invite 30, let's say 28 of the best players in the world, just objectively ranked 1 to 28, and I invite them, but then I run a series of qualifiers so we can still get the shitters in. You can still have your shit locals. You can still fucking go 0-3 against better players and pretend like you did something that weekend. That's fine. That's fine. Have a wash, maybe, but fucking that's fine. You can do that, right? And then the 4 best, the only 4 worth talking about within the context of the thousands that have entered the qualifiers, they get to play alongside the big boys as well. They get to be there, making a name for themselves with the big names in the space. And what a great story that is. Now, do you know what? Because that's like kind of what we did with E-League. Shock horror, people want to sponsor that, because it's guaranteed high-quality content, high-quality viewership, guaranteed to be engaging with the fan base you want to directly fucking link, and in generating that revenue, guess who benefits? The players. And then guess who benefits as well? Those underdog players that get to play against the FGC, they get to make names for themselves. Maybe they beat a few people instead of like falling at the fucking 64th round of play to some other shitter. They get to make a name for themselves. They get to build their brand. Now they might genuinely be part of the ecosystem. Maybe they get invited to more tournaments. Maybe they can build their own fucking ranking. Maybe they're invited to the next 28 and it's a cool story, right? So I just said that. That's how you do it. You have invite leagues with qualifiers going into it. This was framed as Richard Lewis is a corporate whore who hates the FGC and wants to destroy grassroots esports. That's how that went over with those fucking lunatics. And they always ascribe what Monte Cristo said. Monte Cristo didn't even want the qualifiers in his model. They always conflate that with what I said. No, it's just, people don't want to sponsor the grassroots. Grassroots is fine. Grassroots is necessary. An essential layer in the pyramid. But if that's all the pyramid is made of shit and it will crumble and no one cares. And so that was a massive drama. 48 hours of abuse and death threats over that because, of course, as is tradition, Richards expressed a fucking very mild opinion that I disagree with. Destroy him, kill him, beat him. So anyway, here we are now. Blast are doing exactly what I said would have worked for the FGC. So I like it. This is a great idea. Now, the underdogs coming through qualifiers is a fucking banger as well because now we got to generate content with that. We get another tournament with that. It's going to be regional. There's going to be a spread. It's not going to be like the clusterfuck RMRs where it's just like, how did you get here? Oh, I beat some fucking no-names. How did you get here? Oh, I didn't get here because I had to play fucking G2 Vitality and FaZe because of some fucked up seeding. So I'm looking forward to this. And it's going to be really good in terms of how, you know, that experience of playing big teams in arena settings. This is one of the things people don't understand. The experience of playing on a stage with a crowd is totally different to the experience of playing in a small room with a small crowd and totally different to playing online from home. And you have to learn about the rigmarole that comes attached to that. You have to learn that when you're traveling all the time, you're going to be sick. You need to have plans about how you mitigate colds. And as it always seems to happen now, food poisoning and all these other things. You need to have ways to ensure you get good sleep. Then, when you go out there, your adrenaline's going to be fucking soaring, coursing through your fucking veins. You need to mitigate that. How do you do that? Do you do it? Is there some sort of supplement you can take? Is there a breathing technique you can go into? Is it as simple as, fuck it, just let it ride? I'll embrace this. Like, I mean, look, I'm not bringing this up to be mean to Stewie, so don't take this the wrong way, but you could see how fucking nervous he was in the final, and that is a tenured, experienced pro who has won the biggest trophies the game has to offer, and he was shaking on fucking stage in the final, and it was visible. He was like fucking Kiebi at one point with his crosshair. So it is insane what it does to you as an athlete. And so being able to get that experience and have it a few times, you know, that's great. And it might help these teams develop it because it is legitimately a talent, a skill. Me and Maui were talking about it earlier, you know, the concept of the Lanimal, players that are different beasts in that environment. So we will wait and see. But it's just a really good initiative. I'll play the video again.
The Open is the grandest of the Blast Premier tournaments, with the final stages played in iconic arenas. The Open is a 16-team tournament. The top 12 teams from the Valve Global Rankings are invited to the Open with the other 4 spots coming via regional qualifiers. The first week of the Open will be played from the Blast Studios in Copenhagen, where teams will split into 2 groups of 8 to play out a BO3 double elimination format to identify the 3 teams to advance to the playoffs from each group. The 6 teams that advance to the playoffs are then flown into the city hosting the arena final, where they will play single elimination BO3 quarterfinals and semi-finals before a BO5 final to crown the champion. In 2025, the Opens will be played in Lisbon and London.
So, there you go. And then Blast Rivals, deciding where the title of the world's best belongs. So finally, we have Blast Rivals, an event where the best teams across the Counter-Strike season, according to the Valve Global Ranking, will face off to see which of them is the greatest of all. Similar to the current Blast Finals format, the 8 teams in attendance will face off in a best-of-3 GSL format, which will lead into a playoff bracket with best-of-3 quarter and semi-finals and a best-of-5 final. So essentially, this is the kind of peak of it, this is what we get to, this is what it's all about. We're gonna have the 8 best teams, and I just like the idea of like no fluff, no bullshit. These are the 8 teams that deserve to be here, and they're just gonna play, and it's just 8 teams. And you know what, how refreshing, to quote Brian Stelter, how refreshing to just have an 8-team tournament. Because I know this is gonna sound wild again, but back in 1.6 that kind of just happened a lot. You just had 8-team tournaments with just 8 teams. Just the 8 best teams. They're there, different regions in some cases, but it was just 8. It was just an 8-team tournament, super short, done in a day and a half. Like a weekend, easy peasy, and yeah, and they were great. Everybody deserved to be there. They were all the best teams. They all, we used to do double elimination, right? So everybody had an extra life because you could do it because it was 8 teams. I miss double elimination. I wish we could bring that back, right? And you just had, all the games were sick because all the teams were sick. And that was the norm. We just did that. Nobody thought like, well, fucking, this would be way better if there was a fucking convoluted group stage and 32 teams. Nobody thought that. It was just, it's the 8 best teams. This is a fucking sick tournament. And it just isn't, we just haven't had that for so long. The idea of just 8 teams. So this is great. This is going to be short and sweet. And all the games are going to have big stakes. They're going to matter. It's going to be top tier teams all playing each other. Great, perfect. Actually, this is
The Rivals
perfect
is the battle of the elite. The Rivals is an 8-team LAN tournament. The top 8 from the Valve Global Rankings are invited to the Rivals to settle who is the best of the best. The 8 teams will face off in a BO3
the bottle
GSL
be
format,
up, and
leading to
Griff's,
a single elimination playoff bracket.
Griff
with quarters,
is super quick on the
semi-finals,
chopper. The only
before
reason
a BO5
sometimes
grand
videos
final.
like take a week is because of the monetization process. So there you go. Now here we are. This is the bit where I wish there was a link where it says here. I wish that linked to something. But anyway, and now we go. Prize pool, participation fees, and team payouts. And in 2025, Blast will invest $8.5 million into the competitive Counter-Strike ecosystem. This investment is distributed through 3 primary mechanisms. Participation fees are going to make up $4 million. Frequent Flyers program is going to make up $2 million, and the prize money obviously $2.5 million. By the way, if memory does serve me correctly, for the I think for the major, I thought the prize money was it 1.25 for the major prize money? Anyway, so a decent chunk of prize money going to be distributed across these tournaments. $2.5 million, definitely nothing to be sniffed at. And this is where it gets interesting. So the participation fees. And so obviously, remember, this is to encourage people to come and be part of the tournament. They've got to get some money, which is kind of like, all right. That's going to be very useful for some of these orgs, particularly, again, I wish I could find out more about it, and so we could see how it's going to be distributed, who it's going to be distributed to, whether teams go into the bounty are going to get it or not. We don't know. But also, this frequent flyer program. Now, I've read that because it says here, the frequent flyer program is designed to reward teams for their consistency and participation in multiple Blast events. I've read that as you come to our events regularly, and it's like it's going to accumulate. So the more you come to, the more money you get because you are a frequent flyer, and it's almost like we are rewarding your loyal patronage of Blast tournaments. Now, it kind of feels a bit weird if that is being distributed to teams that are invited anyway directly because of the Valve ranking, but also I kind of get it because, listen, they don't have to attend. Valve, the thing with the Valve ranking is you're not compelled to attend a Blast event. So let's say, for instance, right, they're saying there it's going to be the top 12 teams in the Valve ranking. Say 2 don't want to go. So it's not technically the top 12. We'd have to expand it to the 13th and 14th team. And you are going to see this. You are definitely going to see teams decline to attend certain tournaments at certain times in certain parts of the world. And also, it will happen. Somebody is going to big dick it and run a tournament overlapping with someone else. It'll probably be ESL because they're the cunts. So ESL will probably be like, no, there's a huge PGL event or a huge Blast event. Now, actually, listen, I'll let you in on a secret. Blast and ESL have become a bit more simpatico of late. But basically, behind the scenes, they've kind of been cooperating in terms of where they're layering their events, kind of like how they used to back in the day. But this obviously would be this would be a time where you could really create a genuine competition for business. But they're doing it. So it'll be ESL will overlap it with a PGL event. Obviously, ESL and fucking PGL are not pals. They hate each other historically. It's always been that way. And so the ESL will probably try and big dick PGL or something and put an event on top of one of their events. And then what's going to happen is we're inviting the top 12 off the ranking, and we're inviting the top 16 off the ranking. And so who's going to pick and who's going to not, and how's it going to end up, and who's going to go? And that's going to largely dictate a lot of the success of the tournaments in terms of viewership and things like that. Yes, thank you. You've got the frequent flyer page. I knew if I streamed it, somebody would find it. So we can take a closer look at the breakdown. And so obviously we've got, here we go, just a repetition of what we just talked about. But here it is, the participation fee. So $4 million. If you attend the Blast Bounty, remember this is the smaller of the tournament offerings. The 17th to 32nd will get $7,500 per team. Now keep in mind, because you're going to go, oh, well, that's not a lot of money. What you have to remember is the first part of the bounties are online, right? So they don't have travel costs to cover necessarily. So, and $40,000 per team if you finish in the top 8. That's great. 1 and 12, $45,000 for the Blast Open. And then obviously for the Blast Rivals, these are the 8 best teams, $81,000 per team per tournament. This, by the way, like, I gotta say it, if these fucking orgs would just stop overpaying the players, all of a sudden we could get to close to sustainable. But that's a step in the right direction. Teams must fulfill their tournament marketing and commercial obligations to earn these participation fees. If a team declines an invite, their participation fee is transferred to the frequent flyers pot. So that's kind of interesting, because that sounds like they don't give the money to the next team they invite, which seems a bit weird. I think what they mean is, Yeah. Obviously, what they mean is, like, if a team doesn't attend, then we give it to the next team, and the next team. It has to be like that, right? Because that would be fucking crazy if they just said, well, sorry, you don't get any of the money, even though you're attending the event. Anyway, the Frequent Flyers program is designed to reward teams for their consistency and participation in multiple Blast events. The program works as follows. Teams earn tokens for participating in events. 4 tournaments, 1 token, 5 tournaments, 2 tokens, 6 tournaments, 4 tokens. Additional tokens are awarded for performance. Reaching the second week of the Bounty or Open, you get an additional token. If you win a Bounty or an Open or a Rivals, you get 2 tokens. At the end of the year, the Frequent Flyers pot, which will be a minimum of $2 million, obviously it can change if they're putting money from that into the Frequent Flyers pot, which is interesting, is divided based on the number of tokens accumulated. If a team declines an invite, they forfeit all tokens. Oh, that's fucking cold. That's stone cold. Do they mean like all the tokens no, for that year? Oh, this is like what ESL did. I don't know if people remember, but when ESL obviously had that Louvre agreement, part of it was, if you declined, you would forfeit like percentages of earnings down the road. So, but this is what I mean. This is how you get people to attend your events. You hit them in the tokens. Right in the tokens, mate. You've kicked me right in the tokens. And that's what they have to do. Now, it's interesting. No one's talked about this part of it. I don't know how I feel about this. It's kind of like, it is a bit cold. It is a bit ruthless. But you have to think about what you're up against. And that is the fucking Death Star of ESL Face It Group. And so, if you really need to incentivize people to attend your tournaments because you're worried people might not attend because there would be no need to, you can get enough ranking points to get to the major without it, and you're financially incentivized to go to a Blast competitor. You kind of have to be a bit strong. And yeah, I mean, put it this way. It sort of essentially says, if you at any point are invited to Blast and you turn it down, you may as well have not gone to any Blasts at all. So it could backfire. Some teams might just say, we will not be participating in the Blast circuit due to this policy. I mean, it's unlikely, but it's possible it could happen. Also, I mean, some teams might not care about the tokens and the frequent flyer thing, which I find insane because it's a bag of money, and we all know there's like fucking Pac-Man. But I mean, it could just be you have to go to one of these events to get the ranking points. So, I mean, yeah. And then the prize money, it just says it's distributed on performance. I mean, yeah, that's what prize money works, the allocation. I mean, they haven't specifically laid out the allocation. I can't help but notice. But anyway, I mean, look, this is great stuff for the circuit. I mean, PGL are going to be announcing what theirs looks like at some point as well. I imagine ESL might have to have a revamp over this. We don't know what StarLadder are going to do beyond their initial announcement. So, I mean, this is like fucking... I know. This is a step in the right direction for Blast, no doubt about it. I think, like, obviously, there's going to be some kinks they're going to have to iron out, but getting the major... You will notice, by the way, when was ESL's last major? What was their last major? Feels like forever, right? Remind me. Rio, yeah. Yeah, that's why I erased it from my brain. It was fucking Rio, and it was a fucking disaster. Yeah, there you go. It's just deleted, just gone. Just Rio didn't happen. I mean, to be fair, what was it? It was a street party in celebration of Gaules, where the world's most boring team grinded out to a meaningless victory in an empty stadium. It's fucking one of the most ridiculous esports tournaments of all time. So yeah, no wonder that's gone. So there you go. So the last one was Rio, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, Valve aren't the kind of organization to be petty. I don't think they're like not going to give ESL a major ever again. But man, we've had a pretty long. It feels like a long run because you know we've got fucking PGL, Copenhagen, Shanghai, and now we got Austin. And then you know, there's a lot of rumors going around behind the scene that StarLadder get a major this year, which I can't believe that's true. It feels pretty wild that they've come back and you just walk straight into a major, but that's what everyone's saying behind the scenes, that StarLadder's got the second major this year. So, I don't know. I mean, it's wild. But, look, just to put a pin in it on the major stuff, I'm looking forward to the Austin major. I think I might even try and get tickets, honestly. Blast definitely need to learn from Paris, but I'm confident they will. They're being very bold around this new circuit they're creating, which proves moving out of the partnered league era is one of the best things that's ever going to happen to CS2 and just Counter-Strike in general. And I think, honestly, things are about to get wild and weird and interesting again, and I'm excited about that. You should be excited about that if you're a fan of CS. It's kind of wild. Would I host Austin? I mean, they're never asking me in a million years. Main. They're not going to. Main. There's no chance. Like, but, you know, obviously, yeah, available for work. But I wouldn't. Blast have never approached me, I don't think. Not since the initial... Because you have to understand, I mean, I was wrecked from the start with Blast because it was Nicola Nyholm's fucking brainchild, wasn't it? Can you imagine? And then obviously, now that he's not involved, me and him had a fucking beer in Copenhagen. We were just hanging out, just talking. Like you say, the monsters in the scene just keep leveling up. It's so funny. I spend years at fucking war with people that I see as negative forces, and then it's like you finally defeat them, and it's like Elden Ring, being an esports reporter. Swollen Ring. Because you vanquish the monster and then come lumbering over the hill. Right, you have defeated a man that attempted to have a monopoly of 4 esports teams. Now, here's the Saudi Arabian state. Oh, for fuck's sake, no. This is killing me. It's phase 2. I can't handle it. So, you just, at some point, you should just put down the fucking controller, I guess. But, it's, yeah. So, back when me and him were a lot more fractious, obviously, I couldn't work the events then. There was zero chance. Then, at some point, I think I might have been in consideration, but then I think some drama happened with Duncan, and then it was like, well, fuck. You don't get my social media in the fee. Is always my rule, you got to pay extra if you want to fucking put the gag on. And then between the criticism of Neon and Bahrain, it's just not happening. I'd be amazed if they inquired. I'd be amazed, and that's fine. There's many a fine host in esports. You probably Shocks will be doing that one, right? I imagine. So Shocks and Freya, that's great. Perfect. So those are my thoughts on the major and the new Blast circuit. Very exciting, very interesting.